Do you try and avoid any kind of painting that has grass in it? I used to be the same way. Grass is something that a lot of us struggle with. So, in today's lesson, I wanted to focus on tackling two kinds of grass: the manicured lawn that gets mowed, and then the wild field grasses like a meadow. So when people reach out to me for help, a lot of times it's because they are painting grass in one of two ways: either the bristly line method or just making a green mass. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you the steps that I use to paint grass, and I'm going to share the exact color palette that I use, the strokes that I use, and the pressure that I use. So let's head over to the easel and get dusty. Now again, if that's what you're going for, there's nothing wrong with representing grass in either of these ways. But when you're talking about painting grass in like a landscape or something where you want it to feel more expressionist, bordering on real, the first thing that you have to do is put down a dark. And I like to use a really dark violet. You could also use a very dark red, a dark brown, anything that's in the warm, kind of earthy tone that is very, very dark. So I'm just using, this is the Terry Ludwig eggplant. And I just put that down and I just blend it into my paper. And I do this so that it stays put. If you don't blend out your bottom layer, what's going to happen when I come in and put the greens on top is it's going to pick up the purple and it's going to start moving the purple around, which we don't want. So I'm going to do two different types of grass for you. This side I'm going to do like a lawn and kind of like mowed grass. And then this side, I'm going to do more of like field grass where it's a little longer and wilder. So after I put down my dark base color, then I'll come in with a dark green. And I just put this lightly over top. This is a cooler green. And you want to keep your darks more on the cool side if this is in shade. And then if it's in sunlight, you want your greens to be a little warmer. So what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that the sun is hitting our grass more in the back of the scene, less in the front. So I'm coming with a dark warm green here. This is kind of like an olivey green. This is the green that I used right before it, more of the bluish green. All right, and now I'm not going to blend hard. I'm just doing this, so very lightly. And what I'm trying to do is get rid of this delineation between the warm and the cool green. Because as you go back in a scene, if your temperature changes, unless it's a harsh shadow line, like maybe you have something casting a shadow, this is usually kind of a softer blend like that. So now on top, I'm going to come in with this green that I used up there. And again, this is more of like a mown lawn. Mown. So now I'm just making very short, and I'm using the side, see the flat side? I'm using the flat side of the pastel. And just very, very lightly, I'm not pressing hard at all. This is how hard I'm pressing, just that. That's all I'm doing. Pastels are all about how much pressure you apply. Okay. All right, then for my grass in the back, This is, again, staying in the warm family in the back. But it's about the same value as this green I put in the front. Same pressure. And I'm just making sure that I don't have like a harsh line where the two kind of meet. All right, I'm gonna speed it up here, but you can still see what I'm doing. I'm continuing to work with the cool in the front and the warmer greens in the back, just like I did for the first few layers, and keep making those light marks. And then, of course, softly blending with my finger in between the warm and the cool. And I continue to layer several more layers, getting lighter with each one as I go. And of course, in my Patreon channel, the Pastel Growth Studio, I go through all of this in greater detail and explain all of the strokes that I'm using and the pressure. So I'll let you watch this part until we get to the longer field grass. And I have to give a little shout out to my Patreon page, Pastel Growth Studio. Membership is only $5 a month. There is a 7-day free trial for everyone, and I would love to see you over there. I'll put the link in the description. Now let's go over here to kind of a wild field of grass where we don't mow it ever, or maybe rarely. So down here, I'm going to use the same colors, but my strokes are going to be much different. Now you see, instead of me just coloring it in, I'm using an upward stroke, which is creating this where there's more pastel on the paper at the bottom and less at the top. So what that's giving me is kind of this wispy, you know, these grasses they're not as thick at the top. That's a very important stroke to learn. And I'm going to do the same thing with my darker warm green. Okay. And I'm just going to pull a little bit of it down just to give it some variation. Now I'll go into my next value. Oops. One thing I forgot, when I'm doing the longer grasses, I try to do the grasses in the back first. And then also, way in the distance, our field is going to be a little more horizontal feeling. And that would happen with a lawn too. Let me just pop back over to my lawn. So if this was a really, really long lawn, and maybe there's a house way back in the distance there, as you get further into the distance, you want to go a little more, start going horizontal with your strokes, because as things recede into the distance, your eye starts to flatten everything out. So when that happens, you see I'm just putting like little sparkles of grass back in there. But that helps give that illusion that it's receding into the distance, but it's still shorter grass. Okay, so I got my warm, longer grass down. Now I'm going to come in with my cooler. This pastel, this stick is just a little too soft for this exercise, but I'm going to try and make it work. If you have a pastel that's too soft, you have to use an even lighter touch. And that can be a little challenging sometimes when you're trying to make these bold strokes. All right, so now back to my lighter green. I'm going to do the same thing. Put a little bit of a horizontal bit in there first. If you hear the smoke alarm going off, don't panic. My husband is just changing the batteries today. Just gonna fuzz that out. All right, so now to our second to the lightest values. I have these in the wrong order on my tray. I keep grabbing the wrong ones. All right, so I'm gonna start with my furthest back greens, and then go to my greens that are in the front. Okay, I'm speeding it back up again, but you can still see, hopefully, enough of what I'm doing to follow along, but continuing to make the longer strokes the same, warm in the back, light in the front as I did on the other side. Right here, I'm going to slow it back down a little bit because now is when I start bringing in those marks that are similar to those the lines that were made in the upper left there for grass. But the difference is the way that I make the stroke. So I use a hard pastel. I think that is a whole bean. And I start at the bottom and flick the pastel upwards. And the idea is the same as with the bigger pastel on its side, is that the stroke is going to be thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top. So it's going to more closely resemble a blade of grass. So as I'm going through doing this, I also use several different colors for the grass, and I do some blending, as you'll see here coming up, but just wanted to take a minute and show this to you in real time. And if you found this lesson helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would like this video. And if you aren't subscribed to my channel already, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notifications bell so you don't miss any of my YouTube videos. And if you want to check out my Patreon, head on over there. It is the Pastel Growth Studio with Tiffany Williams. Thanks for watching. Take care.